So just the third time, all the way back in 1963. Qualk's here, though, on Twitter, at Qualk Talk. Qualk, big guy. What's going on, my man?
Swanee, it's it's a dreary afternoon. We're just waiting on all the rain to come. But other than that, it's a great day to be in Clemson. How are you?
I'm great, man. I tell you what, this is a time of year where you kind of start to settle in, do a little more roster study, just do all that long offseason prep work, right? And I know that you and Kelly do a tremendous job with all of that. But as you look at these two top fives from the coaches poll and now the AP poll, I mean, are the teams at the top there, in your opinion, because of what they've done in the past? Or do you think these are all legitimate evaluations, overrated, overhyped, this, that, and the other? How do you see sort of the top five in the polls right now?
Well, to be quite honest with you, I mean, I think they're pretty close. I would have Alabama number one, and the reason why is because there's not another good number one for any number of reasons. Alabama, what could you say about Alabama? They have a new quarterback. Well, so does Clemson. So does Georgia, kind of.
So does Ohio State. Yeah, I'm with you.
Yeah, like so does Ohio State. Like so do all these schools. So, well, that's not a great choice. They're the defending champion. And so if they're the defending champion without a real reason to put somebody else number one, that's fine. The only returning starting quarterback, just if you're using that rubric, would be Spencer Rattler. But you don't put Oklahoma up there because Oklahoma's never proven that they deserve to be up there. And that is a bit of a weird take to have because it's not super consistent. But Kelly and I argued about this today. I am fully and completely on board if you want to hold people accountable for who they've been in the past rather than giving them premature credit for what they might actually do this time. So like Oklahoma, when has Oklahoma been a top 2 caliber team in this recent era? Never. So why would you put them up there given that they've had opportunity? This is not like, national championship winning coach goes to a new program. They were 1 win away last year and they're like climbing up to the top. Right. They're recruiting now like a top. No, that's not what this is. This is a team who repeatedly has had chances, both as a conference champion and in the conference championship game and the playoff, etc. They have repeatedly had chances to show that they belong, and they have repeatedly whiffed. They have repeatedly swung and missed at those opportunities. Why in the world would I think or project that they are going to connect this time? The only way would be if you think you're right. And the reason that you will put Oklahoma up there is simple. Their offense is still their offense, and their defense is much improved. That's a legit reason. I also think that Oklahoma has arguably the best foil of any team in like any projected conference champion, a potential foil in Iowa State, who I think is the best second-place team in the country, unless you count Georgia. I think Georgia and Iowa State are pretty similar, but Georgia's level of talent, I would have Georgia ahead of Iowa State right now. Iowa State's legit, man. They almost came back and beat Oklahoma last year. They've beat them in the regular season a bunch. But I don't have Iowa State up in that top 5 because those teams at the top have separated themselves in terms of recruiting and development and coaching to maybe shaded to one of those or the other, but they've proven themselves worthy of being in the top 5. So to your point, I don't have any issue with the top 5. I think they're giving Iowa State the short shrift here by not putting them the next in line, as opposed to teams like Notre Dame and Texas A&M and these teams that have brand new quarterbacks and also lost a bunch around them. I don't really understand giving some of these teams the benefit of the doubt, but the coaches and the media when Iowa State could go up there at 6.
William Qualkinbush joins us every Monday, and of course every Thursday, legendary Clemson SID Tim Beret, who you worked for at one point in your career, joins the show, and he tweeted this out about 15 minutes ago that number 3 Clemson opens the season with number 5 Georgia. Just the third time the Tigers have started the season versus a top 5 team. Clemson beat number 5 Georgia to open the season in 2013. And then Frank Howard's team back in 63 lost to number 4 Oklahoma to open the season 31-14. So I would assume, based off of that, the first ever top 5 matchup to open the season for the Clemson Tigers. I don't remember them being ranked in the top 5 to open that 2013 season. But the Tigers have become accustomed to games like this. And certainly Georgia plays in the SEC and they have their tough battles. But, is it to Clemson's advantage that they've been on this big stage for so many years?
That's a good question. I think it's to Clemson's advantage that they've had success on the big stage. Now, it's interesting to look at Georgia against top 10 opponents. They haven't lost a game against the top 10 team. I think against the top, against the top 5 team on at home or neutral, not counting like Alabama last year. You maybe don't count that. They've had better success since 2018 of doing that. I don't know the exact. I was going to misquote the exact number, so I'll just say since 2018 they've done a better job in these high profile games. Clemson has also done a good job in high profile games, albeit with the caveat that they've lost their last 2, if you count LSU and Ohio State. Now, you also could count Notre Dame in the ACC Championship, which was a neutral site game, which I would. And you could say, maybe Clemson's 2-2 in the last 2 years in those games. Clemson has never stopped playing those games. Georgia has starts and stops of playing these types of games. Neutral venue, a lot of stakes, a lot on the line, etc. Yeah, I mean, it certainly is to Clemson's benefit that they've had success in these moments. They've had success in the stadium. They're not new to the venue at all, and they've had success in season openers, where not just the Georgia game, but against Auburn in recent years and early season matchups with Texas A&M. Whereas Georgia, I won't say they haven't played anybody because they played some decent tests, but they've not been pushed. In recent years in their opening game. So they've not had to go and perform without a good dress rehearsal, so to speak, without an overmatched opponent there. And I think that also plays to Clemson's advantage in this game, that Dabo Swinney has had to have a week 1 plan that's sound to beat a really good team. And Kirby Smart has gotten to kind of ease into the season a little bit. I'll be interested to see what Georgia looks like, because a lot of times these opening games, they're pretty vanilla. And then even last year, they maybe tried to open it up a little bit early, and we saw what happened. First half against Arkansas in their opener last year, it was pick 6 city, and that Arkansas defense, they had them up, and then Georgia kind of stormed back late. They can't afford to be sloppy out the gate against Clemson. There's no doubt about that.
He's on Twitter at Qual Talk every day from noon until 3 o'clock. Out of bounds with Qualk and Kelly on 105.5 The Roar in the Upstate. William Qualkinbush joining us here. And Qualk, also over the past week since you've been here, it was announced that DJ Uiagalelei got a deal with Dr. Pepper. I would make the argument that's the biggest name brand that we've heard partner with any player, especially given it's going to be that Fansville spot, which if you watch college football on a Saturday, you see the spot and you probably love those spots. But does that add additional pressure, in your opinion, to these guys? You know what I mean? Like, is that having that on your back a little bit more heat than maybe even a guy like Trevor Lawrence had without the NIL? And I mean, is there a pressure to succeed that maybe didn't previously exist for these guys because of NIL now?
I'm not sure that it does, because I think there's always pressure to succeed. I mean, if I were to say that, then I would be arguing that there was additional pressure that Trevor Lawrence could have faced. I think Trevor Lawrence faced the most pressure you can last year. So I don't think necessarily it's additional pressure.
Oh, Qualk, you there, man? I think we lost Qualk. Let's see if we can get him back up here on the program. Not sure. A little, again, like I said, we got, we did. We lost him. Lots of storms in the area. That'll do the trick. All right, so let's see if we can't get Qualk. All right, Qualk, sorry, man. We lost you there. I think we got some storms in the area. Maybe took down our connection for a moment. But go ahead. You were saying that you felt like Trevor had the most pressure really to succeed of anybody you've kind of ever seen, I guess.
Yeah, I mean, I can't imagine Trevor Lawrence having any more pressure on him than he did last year. I think that name, image, and likeness would maybe create a different avenue of pressure, but I don't think it heaps any more on there. I don't think necessarily DJ Uiagalelei was if let's say he is crippled under the pressure this year, let's just say for the sake of argument,
Yeah.
I don't think you could say, without NIL, he wouldn't have been. I'm not sure that that's the thing. I think that there are some guys who will deal with it better than others. There's no question. And we won't know who those are all across the country until we start playing games. You just don't know. It's something completely and totally different. It's a little bit like the recruiting process where you don't know who's gonna, who's from a good family, who's got a good background, and who's good culture guy and all this stuff, but you don't really truly know until they get on the practice field, until they get in the meeting room, until you see them. So I don't know that it won't be a distraction. I don't know that it won't supply at least a different kind of pressure, a different caliber of pressure. But I mean, more power to him. Bojangles and Dr. Pepper are legit, and now he's got a national TV contract. I mean, we kind of scoffed at the notion that Bryce Young was going to get 7 figures, but if you're going to get 7 figures, it ain't going to be with some social media promotions. You're going to have to get some national commercials and some national exposure, some national ad campaigns. And so, props to him for linking up with Dr. Pepper and being able to significantly increase his earning potential this year.
Qualt, let me ask you this. From the standpoint of Clemson, we know that these players are not going to be in their uniforms, right? That was part of the deal. But wouldn't it stand to benefit Clemson at this point with an ad campaign like that to have DJ in his Clemson gear? You follow what I'm saying? Because prior to this, it's not like Clemson's getting exposure on these Dr. Pepper commercials.
That's right. And I see your point there. The issue that they've run across, and this is going to be a consistent issue they have to navigate, is other corporate sponsorships associated with the school. So Clemson's got a Coke contract. Coke and Dr. Pepper are not the same. Therefore, in the contract with Coke, Clemson's apparel can't be used to sell other products. That's really why, I think, in addition to the NCAA's deal, that's really why the NCAA kind of said, we're not going to be doing NIL deals that conflict with, contracts that are already signed by the school or what have you, whatever that language was. I think that's why, is to protect maybe the school from certain branding that they didn't want to be associated with, and then to protect the corporate partners who already had contracts with the schools from players who didn't necessarily reap the benefits of that partnership, but keeping them from using a third-party partnership, that school logo and the school, likenesses and things like that, to be able to make money on the side with something else. I think they want to try to keep this as separate as possible. And so, yeah, I mean, it would be great exposure for Clemson. Unfortunately, I don't think their current the current structure of that contract with Coca-Cola is going to allow that.
That's a good point. So less about DJ and the uniform, more about Clemson and Coke. That makes a lot more sense to me, because right. I didn't think of it that way. Now, what I would do though, if I were Clemson, I'll be honest, I would encourage DJ's little commercial to be about like searching for his paw off the helmet that's missing. Like, you don't have to say it's a Clemson paw. Just where's the paw, right? So you're all over Fansville looking for the paw. Okay. Best of both worlds, Qualt. I should be in marketing. Yeah. Now, final thing, Qualt, because I got a feeling I could say, and I'll hang up and listen when I drop this one on you. What do you think about the potential partnership between the Atlantic Coast Conference, the Big Ten, and the Pac-12, and what that could mean for scheduling, what that could mean for fans, what that could mean for TV rights deals, et cetera, and maybe even over the long haul, what that could mean for college football?
Swanee, you could have said hang up and listen, and then you'd be listening to me for about 45 minutes on this. I have just begun to flesh this out, and I'll give you the Cliff Notes version. I believe this is a momentary partnership with one goal in mind, and that is to neutralize the ability for the SEC to transform college football into something that only it recognizes and nobody else does. I think it is about trying to outvote the SEC and trying to show them that there is a limit to the power that it can wield, and that at the table, no matter who's richer, everybody's vote counts the same. So all of that, I think, is good. I think there's also this mutual benefit too of first-year Pac-12 commissioner, first-year ACC commissioner, second-year Big Ten commissioner, all getting together saying, we don't want to look foolish like Bob Bowlesby did. So we're going to protect ourselves in every negotiation, every meeting, knowing that until further notice, we got each other's back. Now, I'm not going to be able to flesh all this out because we're running out of time here, but there is a way of thinking about this. If you believe that media rights are what is going to rule the roost in college football, then I could see a future where the alliances are not based on voting and not based on scheduling and not based on any of that, but they are strictly network lines. And what I'm thinking here is an NFL type partnership, like they have the AFC on CBS and the NFC on Fox. And what you would have is essentially the Pac-12 and the Big Ten and whatever's left of the Big 12 goes to Fox, and Fox sets up some of their scheduling, and they set the times of the games, and they're doing all that for them. And then the ACC, the SEC, and maybe the American, they set up schedules and put on their networks, and they have games on a certain time as well. And I think the residual benefit of this could be, in one way of thinking, that ESPN gets rid of its Rose Bowl problem because the Rose Bowl moves to Fox. And that way the Rose Bowl is maybe out of the playoff. You could play it at 4. If ESPN wants to have a semifinal at noon and a semifinal at 8 and put the Rose Bowl at 4 on Fox, because that would keep their Pac-12 and Big Ten partnerships alive. And it would split things relatively down the middle in terms of the numbers, at least, with regards to ESPN versus Fox. And it sets up this 2-network partnership where your college football TV rights go a completely different direction. That's what I think we're headed toward. But I think for the moment, the ability to stop the SEC's progress and to make sure that it's a 3-1 vote regardless of what the Big 12 does, I think that's very, very important for these young commissioners in these other leagues.
It's funny because it has felt since the move of Texas and Oklahoma to the SEC that we were trending towards a more of a NFL style league, at least from the setup, maybe even the talk to you soon, man. All right.
Thanks, Lonnie. Always a pleasure to be with you.
All right, buddy. William Qualkinbush again here on the show that shakes the Southland. 803-450-0086, 803-450-0086. Again, Lawton Swan hanging out with you. And I'm not sure, man, if it's the storms. I'm not sure if it's the weather.